Today's topic is we have actually one big topic. We are going to talk to a data wizard, an AR XR data wizard, Jason Marsh, who I actually have had the opportunity to host to our Tech Week. And I actually invited him to provide some updates, thoughts about all the announcements that Meta have done on the Meta Connect last week. So Jason, the stage is yours.
Thank you. And Peter, thank you so much for this, but also for the invite to the Morgan Stanley.
Of course, you're welcome.
That was just a real highlight and pinnacle. And I will introduce myself by showing and talking over a 1-minute video. I'll keep it very tight, but I have been programming for 52 years and am a founder of a company called Flow Immersive. Let me share my video so I can show you while I talk about it, because words are not as important as actual visualizations and seeing what we're talking about. Let me rearrange the bars here so I can get to the play button. Okay, so Flow is the best way to have a meeting that you can imagine. And so for us, that means let's float our data over the conference room table between us. And now we're using these X-Real glasses to do that. We have been in business for 9 years and been using the bigger headsets in virtual reality. But having a small pair of glasses in this use case is absolutely amazingly key. In our environment, you can have multiple users seeing the same content at the same time, locked in space, and every user can interact with it, do filtering and real-time display. You see the laser pointers coming out of each person's hand. And right now, this very short video is showing that you can just talk to your data. You speak what you want it to do. And in this case, it's writing Python code to generate averages, to do filters. And actually, because it's a agentic system, you can actually ask it to do 5 or 6 things in a row. And that is the extremely brief overview. It is a fully enterprise environment with on-prem installations possible, etc. And we're pretty proud of it. For the Morgan Stanley demo, we had 5 X-Real glasses, which again are this kind of form factor. They are tethered. And we had 5 people simultaneously looking at the same content, with the host interacting with the AI, and everyone can see what everyone else sees, as well as have a web joiner into the meeting, and they can also see the same content in 3D, not draggable on your screen. And if someone was remote, they would come in and you would see their avatar. So if you're in person, you just see their laser pointer. If they're remote, you see their avatar and their laser pointer, and you can hear them in that way. So that's the brief overview of Flow. And I had the good fortune of demoing to Morgan Stanley 9 a.m. and at 5 p.m. that same day, got to go to Meta Connect, to Mark Zuckerberg's keynote at Meta Connect. So it was a pretty fun day, I gotta say. All right, thank you. Peter, anything else I should say about that before I launch into what we heard about from Meta Connect? And well, let me just give you my quick agenda. So I'll tell you what we heard from Meta Connect, actually show some short clips, just so, again, I prefer to see rather than talk. So we can show some clips of Mark Zuckerberg and some of the demos. But also, I've got a survey of all the different smart glasses that are released or announced, and describe how they are all different, the different levels of functionality. We can also talk a bit about Android XR, which is Google's operating system. So won't isolate our conversation entirely to Meta's universe, because Meta's interesting, of course, and doing some fabulous things, but they're not the only game in town. And if you're really engaged with the smart glasses universe or augmented reality, it's good to be able to. But I think you guys will find it interesting to see the different kinds of devices. So, Peter, does that sound like a good agenda? Anything I'd missed?
I mean, the more the merrier, if you can share more information, that's just better.
Super. Okay, and does anybody have any quick questions on me or the data visualization I showed before I launch into the rest? Okay, all good. So, oh,
It's a new feature coming soon
Hold on.
that is going to be able to amplify your friends' voices.
let me share my screen again for some of Mark Zuckerberg. And so I'm going to assume that everybody's familiar with past products, including the Ray-Ban smart glasses. And so they have a new generation of smart glasses. And one of those features, you know, the AI is better. There's other things about it that it's louder, things like that. But some of the actual features they're announcing are pretty wild and pretty cool. And I think going to be really valuable, certainly to a subset of users. So the first one of those is something they call conversation focus. I'm going to let Mark tell us about that.
Focus. It's a new feature coming soon that is going to be able to amplify your friends' voices in your ear. So if you're in a noisy restaurant, you're basically going to be able to turn up the volume on your friends or whoever you're talking to. We are also improving live AI.
So, and they did show a little, how this would work, sitting in a loud cafe or environment, and where you're looking, it will use the microphones to amplify those to your ears. That's could be a pretty usable feature. I think some people will, certainly maybe some older folks or people with hearing issues, but even still, it's the kind of thing that I could see getting a lot of usage. The other piece is what they call live AI. And live AI is basically a continuous stream. The AI is continuously looking at your environment and can answer questions. It sounded like it was similar to what Google demonstrated at Google I/O with their glasses prototypes that they haven't announced yet. There's a number of demo fails, which were pretty horrible at the event, and they're funny, and it's somewhat heartening to those of us who have high-tech products that we demo often and always pray to the demo gods. If one of the biggest companies in the world can fail on their live demos, then maybe we can all not feel so bad when we fail as well. They announced these Oakley devices, also, really targeting a sports environment. If you're into that, that's great. I don't find it to be that revolutionary to talk about. The biggest, coolest thing is the Meta display glasses with neural wristband. And let's play a little bit longer clip on that to bring us up to speed. Assuming my Wi-Fi is working. Come on. All right. Says it's alive.
You have to mimic Mark's voice.
Let me hit refresh.
Our goal is to build great-looking glasses. This is Meta Ray-Ban display.
First note is the size of the glasses. They're only the slightest bit bigger, actually, than the existing Ray-Ban glasses, which is pretty amazing.
These are glasses with the classic style that you'd expect from Ray-Ban, but they're the first AI glasses with a high-resolution display and a whole new way to interact with them, the Meta Neural Band. That's this guy. All right, now, this isn't a prototype. This is Here it is ready to go, and you're going to be able to buy them in a couple of weeks. There are two key innovations: the display and the neural interface. The display, it is very high resolution and very bright. I mean, like 42 pixels per degree, which is sharper than any major headset that's out there, and up to 5,000 nits of brightness. So it is.
Let's talk about pixels per degree for just a moment. So the Oculus Quest pixels per degree, I think, is around 15. Don't quote me on this. I'm just gauging by the view, which means that you can, when you look at text, you can actually see the edges of the text. You can see pixelation in a lot of what especially if the text is a little bit far away. In the like X-Real augmented reality glasses that I'm using, it's closer to 30, and he's describing 42. 30 pixels per degree. That's the number of pixels per degree of your field of view. I'm waving my hands, you can't see. It's the best way to gauge, instead of dots per inch or pixels per inch on a headset, it's the best way to gauge those. So 42 is extremely high.
It is crisp whether you're indoors or outdoors on the sunniest day. This required a custom.
That's crazy. No other augmented reality glasses really work well in the sun. So pretty good.
Light engine and waveguide to deliver this. It's a lot of awesome technology that we're really proud of. And then there's the neural interface.
So let's just talk about waveguides for a moment. Well, no, I'll come back to that when I talk about the whole list of different glasses on the market. There is really the Magic Leap was a waveguide. Nobody else has really released a waveguide system. A lot of people have shown examples. Google is showing examples. Meta showed waveguides with their Orion glasses last year, but this would be one of the first really mass production waveguides that I know of. Yeah, there's some companies doing, smaller companies doing some things, but I think this is the first time we're going to get millions of devices, millions of waveguides onto the market.
Every new computing platform has a new way to interact with it. The ability to send signals from your brain with little muscle movements that the neural band will pick up so you can silently control your glasses with barely perceptible movements. The meta neural band is a huge scientific breakthrough. We have built a neural interface into a durable, lightweight, comfortable, and good-looking wristband with 18 hours of battery life and is water resistant. Okay, I could go ahead and I could dictate with my voice, I could send a voice clip, but I've got this neural band, and it's silent. And now, a lot of the time you're around other people. So it's good to just be able to type without anyone seeing. And
okay, so I'm going to nerd out and say that's pretty sweet. We'll see how it actually works and how hard it is to train and fast or slow. He claims he can do about 30 words per minute. I am a big fan of ergonomic user interfaces. I've hated the QWERTY keyboard my whole life, which is really...
you could use Dvorak, which is much faster to type. I'm curious whether you can wear two wristbands and type with two hands.
Oh, well, I don't have any ideas on that, but yeah, I have been a big fan of the Apple Vision Pro, where you just move your eyes and you can just tap, the slightest tap with your hand in your lap is extremely ergonomic, although you do have to practice using your eyes a little bit. So I am really interested in with the wristband and what it means for human interactions.
that I wanted to show, and hope that will work. So now I'm going to be able to open up Meta AI with a subtle tap that you're probably not even going to see. Play California Dreamin'.
From Spotify, here's California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas.
All right.
So I didn't actually describe or didn't play the clip where we described what actually is going on. This is a single eye, right eye only, and it's a 30-degree, I believe it's a 30-degree field of view. He's not showing any slam or what we would call augmented reality, where the content gets locked into place in the room. Instead, he's showing a 2D heads-up display. Don't quote me on this, but someone told me that it is possible to do some slam with this and that you will be able to do some augmented reality, someone at Meta. So we'll see if that's true or not. They do in their SDK, they claim that they're providing you access to the camera. And if that's the case, if you've got a camera feed, you can actually run your own slam algorithm and be able to, depending on the power or speed of the device, be able to actually lock content in the room the way I described showed with my video for what we're doing with data visualization. Another demo fail. Okay, here's maybe a demo success.
When I watch TV, I pretty much always have the subtitles on. I can hear fine, but I find that it just makes it easier to follow along. But if you have an issue hearing, then I think that this is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also cool, it can do translation. So if I'm talking to somebody who speaks a different language than me, I'll get a translation in my native language right on the display, real life subtitles.
There you go. All right, should we show the camera?
We got to show the camera.
So real-time translation with a display, I think it's really going to be a big improvement over the current translation devices where you have to wait and listen to the audio coming in, because you've got the person speaking in a different language, then you've got a different audio in your ear, and that seems like and then there's the delay between the two is, to me, not as smooth an interface as being able to see what someone else is speaking. So that's my own personal opinion. I have not tried this to see how it actually works. Of course, I will be buying one soon, but I think that for those kinds of use cases, when you're traveling, the translation, the focus, conversation focus, those, and real-time captioning, those features alone will sell a lot of devices. Got agentic AI doing a variety of things. Oh, just in case you're interested in prices.
Help you. There you have it. This is the next chapter in the exciting story of the future of computing. And so we got Meta Ray-Ban display.
So here we go.
Where you can get demos as well.
So $800 available in a few weeks. And that's the overview of that. Before I go on and talk about Horizon Studio and the new Meta Horizon engine, which is a development environment, I thought I'd jump over and just give you the overview of smart glasses, the smart glasses universe today, and clarify what these different types of glasses are and how they differ from each other. So you've got smart glasses without display, which is the current Ray-Ban Meta, and Oakley Meta, where you essentially have microphones, maybe cameras, and audio, and of course connected to an AI is where that really makes sense. HTC Vive is new on the market. HTC is a very long-term headset manufacturer, so that's a new entry for them. So quite a few, some of them smaller, some of them bigger. Get a sense of some of the prices in here as well. Then you have smart glasses with display. Here's the Ray-Ban with display, probably the most sophisticated one in the market right at the moment. A lot of these glasses with display are just a heads-up display, so they just show a little bit of text. Even realities, is that in here? Yeah, even realities is one of those, and sometimes it can be as small as just a little bit of green text and no other graphics. So the Meta display is really a step up in terms of visual quality and field of view. Still small, 30-degree field of view is pretty tiny, but being able to have any sort of 20-degree field of view, okay, I take it back, is still pretty valuable. Then the next one is 3 degree of freedom actual AR glasses. So these are glasses similar to the X-Real that I showed, but with 3 degrees of freedom, it expects that you're going to sit in a chair and just turn your head as opposed to walk around and lean in. What I showed was the Air 2 Ultra, X-Real Air 2 Ultra, which is full 6 degrees of freedom. So the other 3 degrees are X, Y, and Z, where you can actually walk around in the environment, where 3 degrees of freedom is just being able to turn your head, pitch, yaw, and roll. Can be pretty functional if you don't want to move around, but you know, I'm a snob. I really like to be able to lock the content in the room and be able to walk all the way around it, at least for my use case. But that 6 degrees of freedom means that you usually need to have 2 cameras and you need more processing power. This spreadsheet doesn't separate the tethered versus non-tethered experiences, and that is a huge difference. So with the X-Reals, I'm going to stop sharing and just come back to my camera. With the X-Reals, I don't know if you can see the prisms on the top of the lens here, prisms on the top half of the lens. So they've got a projector in the top, and they use a prism to project this into your view. That's pretty thick. It's not that easy to see through totally. It is very nice to be in a meeting and be able to see the people you're with, but you're not going to want to wear something like this all day. And it is a little bit big, but really the all day is a problem. And particularly a problem because it's tethered. So for today, for my use case, using a tethered pair of glasses with a phone, in this case, we're using Samsung S24 phones, is a huge step up from traditional headsets, but it also, again, it's not an all-day wearable kind of device, just a little bit too big. So instead, let me go back to my spreadsheet. So most of these, the Vitchers, the X-Reals, are tethered. Snap is not tethered and therefore much bigger with a much smaller field of view and expensive. Snap, because you have to use their own lens studio instead of being able to write normal applications to it, has limited usage in the enterprise. I believe it's really you're really going to stick with consumer use cases. Okay, when you get down to these guys, the Android XR prototype from Google and Samsung, which is what they were showing at Google I/O. They did not announce the ship dates. Then, here's when they announced it, but they haven't said when it'll ship. And the Meta Orion, which is the full waveguide. These are both waveguides devices, I'm pretty sure. The full, waveguide, full augmented reality, while doable today, is extremely expensive. And battery life is a problem. So they're not for sale yet. $10,000 per unit. They're basically just working with very few developers in order to get these off the market. But they do have the promise of a very wide field of view and should be really, that's when the world changes, when we get to all-day wearables. Okay, so there's a lot of information here, and I went through a bunch of things, but I don't know the level of detail you guys would like. Let's open up to questions around the glasses.
This part is at the bottom saying, and add 1,000 rows.
Add 1,000 rows?
Yeah, if you scroll down, it says add 1,000 rows. I'm like, yep, that's the future. I mean, what do you think is the future and when we are going to reach it? I mean, we have like, 40-ish vendors just doing the glass factor, not speaking about the other factors that we are not touching here. So when is going to be replacing, when it is going to be in everyone's hand?
So I don't have
head, actually, not hand, head.
On our faces, on our noses. I don't have tons of insider knowledge, but I do have a sense that there will be maybe a dozen more different Chinese manufacturers doing smart glasses within the next 12 months, maybe more like 6 months. These form factors are getting to be pretty well known, and the way small and big Chinese companies put together components, I can imagine that we will see a wide array of variations on this list quite soon. And I've got another reason why I think this is actually particularly doable, which is Android XR. So if you're not familiar with Android XR, it's Google's new operating system for the AI age, they call it. And I would expect, other than Meta and Apple, I would expect that pretty much every pair of glasses on this list, or at least the next generation of glasses on this list, would use Android XR. If they don't, they're crazy. Android XR is designed for this whole list, for smart glasses without displays all the way through full augmented reality. And it just makes so much sense. Today, trying to implement for these different devices as a developer is not very much fun. And there's so many. And what are we going to do, right? It's a real challenge. But Android XR, to be able to write once to all these devices, I think that's going to be a huge win for developers, and therefore content on the glasses is a huge dependency for success for the glasses manufacturers. So to be able to tap into that ecosystem of apps that are being developed for Android XR is the way to go. The first device that will have Android XR is XReal and called Project Aura. It's a joint process with XReal and Google, and that should be, they're saying first quarter of next year. So this is where I think that this device here is where, for my use case, we actually scale. I would expect they're going to sell hundreds of thousands pretty quickly, and maybe 1 million the first year. I expect that the Ray-Ban displays will be a multi-million device sale in their first year. I think there's so many good use cases for them. Other questions, Peter, on that, or anyone else? Or if anybody has any further knowledge or input, jump in.
I'm actually going to pit you against Mike. Yeah.
I was going to say, and Jason was just sitting here last night having dinner. I was going to say that I think I know when this is going to hit mainstream, and it's been a hunch I've had for a while. And I totally agree with Jason that the form factor is this form factor, right? It's these glasses, it's the Row Kids, it's the Meta display, it's the X Reels, right? And the X Reels they're a refined version of what they put out 5 years ago. And I think as soon as you see that form factor is coming, it just makes sense. And when you get away from the tethered option and you're just wearing the glasses, it's even better. I think that the battery life is going to be important, but I think more than that, there's a use case that only a handful of people have really had a chance to fully appreciate. And Peter, you probably have had these calls on the Apple Vision Pro where you're in a call with 3 or 4 people and you're all wearing the device, and they've gotten these avatars to be very good, almost like the one that you're using right now, but the ones on the Apple, like this right here. By the way, Peter, are you in the
yes, this is an Apple Vision Pro avatar.
There you go. So if you were having this call with someone in your space, Peter's avatar appears to be in the room with you, right? And it appears to be sitting next to you or sitting across the table from you. And you can have 4 or 5 people in this call together where you're looking around and you see each other. You can bring up a model, you can bring up visualized data that Jason works on, and you can see each other and you can see each other's hands. Now, here's what's not happening yet. We don't have a device that's lightweight that necessarily affords that. But the use case is everyday use. When I'm getting on a call with my wife, or if you're having a call with a client, or if you want to talk to your kids and they're away at your grandma's house or whatever, the ability to put the glasses on and to feel like you are in the same room with the other people that you're contacting is what I think is going to turn this from a few million devices to widespread hundreds of millions, if not billions of devices that people use, because it is that personal connection. Right now, we're all staring at a rectangle for the most part, except for Peter. We're staring at a rectangle, whether it's on a phone or it's a laptop or it's a PC. But that's going to change. And when this turns into these people are around us and they're in our space for a brief moment, for a 30-minute call, and there's some cool things you can do too. Like with the Apple Vision Pro, I can switch the view so they can see my view. So if I'm in the environment that, let's say, I want to show them that this, I don't know, a beautiful garden or, some kind of natural disaster, and I need to get the response team down there. There's all kinds of use cases. That's when I think this turns from a few million to hundreds of millions to billions. Timeline wise, and I've been in VR for 29 years, we've watched this slow progression, but things have been moving along, especially as these big corporations are putting more and more money. And you're just seeing, you're seeing Google, you're seeing Meta, you're seeing Apple put, billions and billions of dollars into this. The physics of it all, it makes it more complicated because you've got to get the battery life, you've got to disperse the heat, you've got to decide how much processing resources you're going to spend towards the display versus the AI versus how much resources you want to spend on it so you don't burn through that powerful processor in an hour to make the device usable for longer periods of time. So we're pushing against the laws of physics, we're pushing against the Moore's law, but those things are moving progressively towards this ultimate device. I would guess that we're talking 4 to 7 years. Maybe on the best case of AI can accelerate the development of a faster and more efficient chips. Maybe we're talking 2.5 to 3.5 years. Probably, I think 5 or 6 years, and it could be longer than 7. But at some point, that's when I think that everyone goes, okay, I'm going to replace my phone, right? I'm going to replace this rectangle that's heavy and goes in my pocket with something on my head that whenever I can use it for a million different things, but whenever I want to feel like I'm in the presence of the people I want to talk to, I want to bring them into my space, I want to go into their space, I just say the word and all of a sudden they're in my living room. I think that's coming. I think almost very, very few people in the world have had a chance to have that experience. My guess is when that comes, people will chuck their little rectangles into the lake, like what I want to do, and they'll just replace it with a pair of glasses. That's my soapbox there.
Yeah, so we have had, as part of this Zenith course, discussion about 6G and 7G before. Do you guys think that's going to help here if we can have some of the computation, AI, and so on, not on the device, rather pushing it into the, better latency, faster, and so on, cloud?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've heard people at Meta say those type of things, that they think the edge compute solutions are going to make this more, accelerate things more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
I mean,
I'll just reiterate that Michael still, his description of that, he did call it like 4 to 6 years. And I'm a little more, everything I've been talking about is a little bit tighter time frame than that, which is good. We need both perspectives.
Well, do you think that, Jason, that is a wide field of view, full screen, stereo, high quality video on the device, or are we still talking about like a monocular, color, limited FOV screen?
For
hopefully 48 hours a day or something like this, at least.
Yeah, I mean, when that's the question is like, will people accept the small field of view sooner and adopt it in mass, or do you think they will?
Yeah. Especially with AI, the functionality. You're not going to get the experience you described with the avatars, but AI pushes the bar of value high enough that smaller screens will be acceptable.
To be honest, when I'm driving, having that very small display showing the driving directions, I don't need a huge GPS display or something, There are use cases where this, very limited view is just enough.
Just remember that, okay, I'm holding my phone, I know, okay? What is my field of view on this phone at a normal reading length? It's pretty darn small. It's probably it's probably 10 degrees. So if we can function well with a phone for at least a lot of 2D experiences, then we'll be fine with smaller field of view on the glasses. I
mean, for me, it's always the battery life. Whichever device uses, that's for me, that's actually, I mean, we have the running joke that if battery technology would have developed like all the other technologies, we would have the batteries lasting for 50 years by now, which is not the case. Although I recently saw a startup which is now you can buy small, like, those very small batteries that are lasting 50 years according to them. So
I basically have seen so many advances in batteries in technical literature. And at this point, I say, when I can buy it, that's when I care, because it's really hard to keep track of which of these batteries will ever make the market. But yeah,
yeah,
batteries is a huge part of the physics of this whole equation.
yeah, no, this particular battery you can actually buy on Amazon, and they say 50 years.
Oh, sweet.
So it has a very low voltage, of course, for that, but and wattage, but it should last for 50 years.
So I wanted to hit briefly on the other things that were the
Yeah,
major.
you guys at AWE. So what's at AWE? How does it look like this
I was
year?
just going to mention Meta's new development environments.
Oh yeah, that's a fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael, I have a couple of clips I can show. Do you want to take this part of the presentation, or?
No, you should go ahead. I will just preface whatever you're going to show and say there was some contention. I was at the summit 2 days before the Connect, and there was some contention from some big, higher scale, bigger, more high profile game developers that have been frustrated with Meta's current ecosystem. And as the tension and the frustration kind of reached a boiling point within the sort of room of a couple hundred developers, and it got a little heated, Meta came out and said, "Hey, everybody, we've got a new solution." I think they may have even felt like they had to address the team a little earlier than they wanted to and say, "We got a new plan, we got a new solution coming out." So I'll just preface it with that.
Well, and we'll keep this pretty brief. It's really interesting for all of us, but if you're an actual developer, you'll want to dig a lot deeper. So let's hear from Mark.
Now, over the last year, we've released a number of AI tools to generate meshes, textures, TypeScript, audio, skyboxes.
No, first, I skipped a little part. Well, here, I'll just go back a little bit.
Glasses. Meta Horizon Studio. Now, over the last year, we've released a number of AI tools to generate meshes, textures, TypeScript, audio, skyboxes, and a lot more, so that way creators can make higher quality worlds in just a fraction of the time. Soon, Meta Horizon Studio is going to include an agentic AI assistant that will stitch together all of these different tools and further speed up the creation process using just simple text prompts. Powering this is our brand new Meta Horizon engine. This engine is fully optimized for bringing the metaverse to life. It is much faster performance and to load things, much better graphics, easier to create with. Now you're going to be able to easily create infinite connected spaces that look way, way better with realistic physics and interaction. All right, now to check this out, what this engine can do, let's walk through some of the new experiences that we're rolling out. Now, first, the graphic fidelity means that hyperscape spaces are now really quite something. Now, I showed a prototype of this last year, and today we are rolling out early access to hyperscape capture. So you can just use your Quest headset to scan a room in just a few minutes and turn it into an immersive, true-to-life world.
So to me, the big new bit of this, because there's been scanning technology forever, is using AI to fill in all the bits that you don't take the time to scan. To scan in every room and, get underneath every table and chair and all that is a pain. And so if they're using AI to solve all those corner cases, to get into all the dark corners, that is a huge help.
We're launching a new entertainment hub that we are calling Horizon TV.
Okay.
And
no, we don't need on that. But the idea that Meta has its own proprietary development environment engine universe to create worlds leaves all of the Unity and Unreal developers behind or in a quandary. And so that's, a challenge. But then again, it looks like it could be really impressive, but I
I mean,
don't have
Snap
any.
is trying to get away with this.
Say again, Peter?
Snap tackles are trying to get away with having this as well.
There's going to be some other, serious engines that do similar things. You look at like Google and even, I don't know if NVIDIA has their own world rendering environment, but they certainly have focused a lot on creating these virtual worlds in which to train robots and et cetera. So, Michael, I'll send it to you for the developer perspective on what this means.
Yeah, well, there's pros and cons, and we've got people in the professional industry that appreciate and use AI tools all the time. And there's some fear in that well, if you make it too easy, that you're not gonna need our professional skills. But I don't think that we're overly worried about that, because we still believe that to make a good experience at some stage, this is just going to enhance our abilities, speed it up, potentially make it more economically feasible to make better experiences in shorter periods of time with smaller budgets. That said, the main other takeaway here is that they're making Meta has initially, when they first started off with Horizon Worlds about 5 years ago, it was a hobbyist tool that anybody, a little kid to anybody with very little skills could come in and build things. And what they did was they created an environment that was wide for everybody to build, but it didn't really allow for professionals to come in and build great experiences. And they kind of learned that lesson. I actually walked away from it 5 years ago, and I played around. I said, this is cute, but we can't build great stuff with it. Meta has come to that realization. The trade-off is that now they've given us these professional tools. They've turned the kind of the hobbyists into unneeded anymore. It's not really going to be beneficial for a hobbyist to spend time in there unless they just want to build something for themselves. Because in order to make stuff for the applications and games, you now have these more advanced tools. So we'll see. Maybe they've given the hobbyists some tools that they wouldn't have never been able to afford, or technical skills that would never take a long time to achieve. They may have given those hobbyists the ability to level up. But I think the AI content creation is just it's inevitable, and it's still not to the level in terms of generating models and textures that you can say it's at the highest levels of professionalism, but it's approaching that. It's probably going to get there in the next year or so. And in the meantime, it definitely speeds the process up. So this new engine and this new studio that they produced, I think, was Meta's listening to those professional teams that have been building on it and saying, hey, you're missing these features. It's not competitive with the other high-level platforms in the market. If you're going to expect us to put our energy and time into your platform, we're going to need these tools and the engine to reach higher standards. And I think Meta intelligently is reacting the right way and responding to the demands and needs of those professional teams. And I think that that's going to, at the end of the day, be good for them. Now, whether or not they can compete with the likes of Roblox and Fortnite and these kind of things, I think they can, but it will take a lot of money, and it'll take a few more years to get everyone to level up. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
So that covers what I was thinking about covering. We can take questions or go anywhere you would like.
Feel free to ask questions. You don't have to have a fancy avatar like me. If you need help unmuting, just let us know and we will help.
The universe is changing rapidly in this space, but not as fast as we would like. Welcome to the conundrum of first world problems.
So yeah, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask.
I do believe that we'll get to a universe where smart glasses do replace phones. It just makes sense. Or maybe even contact lenses that replace phones, replace glasses. I don't know. But the level of superpowers it gives us is just, I think, going to be very compelling. But it's still going to be a while. And meanwhile, we can do some amazing, amazing things with what we've already got. And we should get those use cases out there into the world and see how many of those can actually scale. Like what Michael's working on, what I'm working on, I think we have ability to scale with what we've already got out there, but it's still a lot of market education is needed so people can understand what it does.
I mean, there's still privacy and ethical concerns that we have to think about.
There are, but younger generations don't think about them the same way our generation.
I know.
Just to be, but certainly for the enterprise space, yeah, there's still a lot of privacy and security that was going to need to be addressed with these. Google Glass, everyone's like, oh my God, you've got a camera on your face at any time. Well, yeah, we have a camera in our hand at any time too. So now I haven't seen really any public pushback on the Meta glasses that they have cameras. And certainly nothing like we saw with Google Glass. When was that? 10 years ago? 12 years ago?
I have seen people recording on subways using the Ray-Ban cameras, and no one better than I.
Right. Welcome to the modern world.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Okay. If no other questions, then I would like to thank both of you for joining, and please keep up the amazing work you guys are doing. So you guys are moving us to the next century, I feel like. Especially if I'm watching something like this three-body problem and everything, hopefully you are not bringing aliens to the Earth or something, but many people seen this whole XR stuff first time in this three-body problem Netflix series. So hopefully you are not bringing enemy aliens to the world, but hopefully you are also fixing many of the world's XR problems and making this a reality for enterprises. So thank you.
Thanks, Peter. A pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure having you guys. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.